At this moment, we do want to continue our conversation with Bree Dale. She's an investigative journalist and a Vaticanist with the Daily Wire. Also, Patrick Novecosky, best-selling Roman Catholic author of 100 Ways John Paul II Changed the World, and he's also managing partner of Nova Media. To both of you, thank you so much for being with us. Bree, I want to go to you first in terms of the emotion and the significance of this. You cover this. You are called a Vaticanist, and I've never heard that term, so I'm interested to hear your perspective on what you're seeing and the significance of this for all of us, whether you're Catholic or non-Catholic.
Well, thank you for having me. Vaticanisti are those of us in the press who are accredited to the Vatican press office and who've been accredited for some years, become kind of experts in this field. And I will tell you, I was a student in Rome when John Paul II died. I was one of the first in the square praying for him, was approached by many media there. And so to be on the other side is an exciting time to watch this unfold. I knew Benedict XVI when he was Cardinal Ratzinger, and I knew back then that he was seen as a favorite amongst those who are considered more traditional. But what's fascinating is that he was not seen as really or considered as really a front runner then by the media. So that's why I tend to say to people, be very careful with regards to what the media is telling you who is going to be coming out these doors. Emotionally, everybody just feels that there's conclusivity. There's conclusivity. There is a sense of a feeling of we have a new father of the church. The impact to the world, however, is going to be massive. People are just not aware of how the Catholic Church has been so decisive in the ability to move geopolitical elements in history. Unless you are a real study or a real expert on, say, John Paul II and his involvement with, say, the fall of communism. What we're seeing right now is a massive geopolitical nightmare unfolding, whether it's in Ukraine, whether what we're seeing in Jerusalem and the wider Israel conflict with those in Gaza and the West Bank, or whether we're seeing the unfolding right now of political tensions and firefighting over in India and Pakistan. This is what the Pope is going to have to focus on when he steps into office. So I think we're going to see a diplomat.
Yeah.
Patrick, day 2, ballot 4. Is there any significance regarding that timing?
Not really. I honestly expected it to go another day. John Paul II was elected on the 3rd day. He was not what they expected for the next pope. It's going to be strange. We've been seeing all these memes about other people dressed as popes created by AI. It's going to seem really strange for the first couple of weeks to see someone else dressed in white for real, not AI. So no matter who it is, I think expect surprises. And this is a pope who's going to have to deal with a lot in the church, outside the church. And I think there's just a great excitement, a great buzz right now, and a great hope that this is going to be and it always is, a turning point in history and in the Catholic Church.
Bree, I saw you nodding your head as we were discussing the timing of this. Your thoughts on the timing of this and what it might signify as well.
Well, I will say that my gut was telling me that it would be the 2nd day. The Vatican has really meant to limit the amount of time spent in conclave to about 3 days maximum. We have not seen a 4-day conclave since Pius VI. And really, I think that there's a necessity there to why we have more engagement, the 9 days of mourning leading to the conclave. that we saw with these cardinals. However, I will say in this case, those who were a little concerned about what the media was calling frontrunners, those who would be considered papabili, we're looking at the timing as potential indicators of not really having an idea of who is going to be the next pope, or not really leaning towards that papabili. It still can be that we'll have a surprise here, and I would say it never count that out. But in this case, I think those who are Vaticanists are seeing this as potential nod towards individuals who are papabili and those who have been engaging for quite some time, looking at the role of the pontiff.
Patrick, and this is for both of you, but Patrick, you can start. We had a priest on a couple of weeks ago. He said the church is divided, but he said it was divided because of a lot of perspectives. Is that necessarily a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, the church is diverse. It's universal. So I think there's always been some division in the church. I think what the church needs is clarity of teaching. And we didn't get that from Francis. We had that from John Paul II. We had that from Benedict. And I think clarity of teaching brings the church together. So, yeah, there's division. And I think this Pope will need to address that very clearly. And I expect that he will.
Bria, explain clarity of teaching. Doctrine, what do you think that means for this new Pope to come out? Is it a PR release, or is it something that he comes out? It's a big announcement about his beliefs and where he wants to take the Catholic Church and the 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide, where he wants to take them, especially culturally.
Right. So I think continuity is key here. How he has seen his predecessors and the continuity of the messaging of 2,000 years of history and tradition within the Catholic Church needs at this time someone who has a strong yes and a strong no. As Christ himself said, let your yes be your yes and your no be your no. There has been that in the past with John Paul II, and there has been that within the intellectual writings of Pope Benedict XVI. But when we had Pope Francis, what we had was an individual, a pope who was really focused more on the corporal works of mercy, those involved with dealing with the poor, and those involved with forgiveness and mercy, and which is necessary. But in a time of such confusion in the world on really even foundational elements that would never have even been questioned in science, 100 years ago, we do need to have a pope who is very, very clear in the messaging of the 2,000 years of history and tradition in the church. And I think we may get that with this pope.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit, Brie, about moving geopolitics and the role that most people aren't aware that the Catholic Church plays. There are so many people watching this. I've heard people say that they've watched this for the first time in their lives. They didn't even really understand the significance of a conclave and the positioning of the Catholic Church. Can you talk a little bit about that, especially for those people who are really being introduced to this process and introduced to a lot of the things that you're saying, the significance, because the issues we're talking about in terms of geopolitics affects all of us worldwide.
Right. Exactly so. And I think one of the I use John Paul II because it's his involvement bringing down the USSR and the Soviet communist movement coming from Poland and doing so. Oh, here we just
yes.
Right. Yeah.
We're seeing right now the entrance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Explain what we're seeing.
So this is going to be very. So what we're seeing right now is the Swiss Guard and the Swiss band coming in to so we're going to be seeing the Pope, the new Pope announced very, very shortly. They're getting ready to introduce him.
Okay.
Yeah, this is fast. This is really fast.
Okay, so this is the sign of that. This signals that
this is the sign that
the balcony is about
coming
to be.
in.
Okay.
Yep.
And tell us again who we're watching. This is the tell us again.
So this is the band coming in. They're going to make they're gonna play the Vatican city-state song or anthem when he comes out after he's announced. And then this is a Swiss Guard as well, who have been there for really since the Swiss Guard protected the papacy during the time that the Huguenots attacked the Catholic Church, and so they've been there ever since. And that's why the Swiss have pride of place there to protect the Pope. But yeah, this is a big deal that we're already seeing them come in. It means that there's not a lot of time in between him getting dressed and him coming out, which signifies that I'm guessing that this decision took place pretty quickly on the fourth vote.
Can you, Bree, clarify for us what exactly is going to happen and who we're going to see? We know the Cardinal will come out from those doors we showed earlier and announce the new Pope's name, I imagine. There are the doors, the balcony where he's expected to emerge. Once he announced the name, when do we actually see the next Pope? Is he presented today, or are there several days before he's presented in an official ceremony? Can you clarify that for us?
It will be immediate. Yeah,
okay.
It will be immediately. So what they will say is Habemus Papam, and then they will announce who he is. Like, they may give his first name, then Cardinale, and then his last name, and that's when we'll know who it is, who the Pope is, and then they'll announce what his name he has taken as Pope, and that's when we'll see the Pope come out and greet the people. So we're very close, but we will see a Cardinal come out. It may be Cardinal Ray, who is the president of the College of Cardinals, make that announcement. I'm not quite sure who will.
Okay, well, if it's not Cardinal Ray, I was, some people have said if it's not the person you think, that person could be the Pope. So we could get a signal in terms of who makes the announcement, I would imagine, as well.
Right. He's quite elderly, though.
Okay.
He's quite elderly.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
All right. That inside information is very important. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Well, Patrick, while we're waiting for the announcement on the balcony and the new Pope, let's talk about the 108 cardinals that were nominated by Pope Francis. We're talking about geopolitical issues and how this process, very intriguing to a lot of people who haven't watched it. The cardinals in their separate rooms and everything is secretive. When the new Pope is announced, are there people behind the scenes, especially the 108 that were nominated by Pope Francis, who held a friendship with him in respect? Are they going to this Pope, encouraging him, listen, we would love if you could keep some of the same topics, stay on topic the way Pope Francis did with certain cultural issues, and then fill in the blank? Is that happening behind the scenes, do you believe?
I think it's probably happening with all of the cardinals. I think that they all will let the new Pope know their issues and what's important to them, and be praying for him and be praying with him. Pope Francis appointed 80% of the cardinals, but not all of them are in lockstep with him. Not all of them even met Pope Francis. They were elevated to the position by him from countries all over the world. So while they were appointed by him, we can't expect that they voted to have another Francis. Many of them are culturally very, very faithful Orthodox Catholic leaders, and perhaps want to see the church go in a direction that is more in step with John Paul II and Pope Benedict.
All right. Well, if you're just joining us here on Dr. Phil's Merit TV, we are awaiting the Cardinal who will make the announcement of the name of the new Pope to emerge on that balcony you see there on your screen. We've just watched the march, the guard there playing the song, signaling that the announcement is imminent. So, as we watch and as we wait, Bree, I want to go back to what you were talking about earlier regarding the geopolitical significance of this new Pope's position, selection, and his thoughts on where he might take the Catholic Church from here.
Right. So, as I was saying, John Paul II was very much involved with the bloodless takedown of the USSR. Coming from Poland, he was very aware of what the Soviets were doing inside the Iron Curtain, and he was obviously targeted. But he worked alongside. There's a great book called the President, the Pope, and the Prime Minister. And he had a very good working relationship between Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. In fact, Ronald Reagan, it's told in this book, communicated through the red phone to the Pope with regards to some intelligence gathering that the CIA had on attempts on, I believe, on the Pope's life being taken. And I think this was after the assassination attempt that took place. But the president, Ronald Reagan, had contacted the Pope, and the Pope had already been briefed by the Vatican's own intelligence agencies, which is very, very strong, by the way. It's one of the strongest in the world. A lot of people are not aware of that. So John Paul II is an example of being one of those real strong diplomats. He was very strong in his wording, but also within the workings, behind the scenes, very supportive of the workers' movement, the solidarity movement in Poland that helped bring down the USSR through its activism. And so I use him as an example, and then I point to someone like a Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa, who is very, very much involved. He's a patriarch of Jerusalem, very, very much involved in what's going on within Israel, his advocacy for the Christians in the Middle East, but his awareness, his deep awareness of the complexity of the region. And I give him as an example of a diplomat in service, in the work of the church, and who's also very, very involved in the geopolitical movements there. So I do expect that this Pope will be one who is very aware and very capable of the geopolitical impact of the church, and really build that up again in certain areas where the church has been seen as weaker over the recent papacy.
We're looking at some really just beautiful shots right here from cameras high above. As the crowd awaits the announcement of the new Pope, we are getting word that will come at any moment.